Sam, who's moving into a lavish home, tells his friend Mike, who doesn't live in a big fancy home. He wishes Mike, I also wish this blessing for you to live in a grand big house. Is there anything wrong with this comment? What's a real blessing? What's true success? What are we really after? Our society teaches us subliminal messages all the time that the more I have, the better off I am. The more I have, it means I'm successful. But the Torah does teach us the truth. And the Torah teaches us that being more and not having more is actually what we should value and what life is truly all about. Our patriarch Avraham and Bilam were actually extremely similar in character. However, one was positively driven, Abraham Avinu, and one was negatively driven, Bilam. Avraham saw life with rosy-colored glasses. Whatever I have is good, and he was very wealthy. Avraham, his life was as though he was living in heaven on earth. His life was positive. He was satisfied, and his perspective on life was positive. He had rosy-colored glasses. Bilam had an ayin ra'ah, an evil eye. The more I have, the more I want. I want more and more and more. He was totally complacent spiritually, but he wanted more materialistically. He had a negative perspective on life. Now they were both driven. Avraham was driven and Bilam was driven. Avraham used his character of being driven, of being motivated, of wanting to do and get things accomplished, getting accomplished more spiritually, being more. Bilam was driven to accomplish more, having more. So you could have a character trait that could potentially be positive, it could potentially be negative. So it depends on what will you do with what you have. Now what do we have? The biggest way to indulge in yourself is to give more. The more I have, the more I need to give away. But wait a minute, you may ask. How much do I give away? Don't I need to keep some for myself? I mean, I work very hard. I work very hard for my money. I do so much. I accomplish so much. The truth is, the more we have, the more we need to give away. Now, does that only mean financially? It means whatever that you have in your life, whatever Hashem, our God, gave you, that's what you need to give away. Whether it's your talents, whether it's your insights, whether it's your abilities or your skills. If you have them, you give it away. And guess who benefits from it the most? You do. When you give away, you receive more than the person who actually received your help, your talents, your abilities, and your skills. There is no greater way to receive than to give to others. However, you can't run on empty, obviously. A gas, which is provided in a car, can make the car run. The car can't run on empty. You can't run on empty, which means you always have to make sure you self-nurture yourself and take care of yourself first. And that's when you're actually going to be happy to give to others and do it in a meaningful way and not regret it. Many times we give to others and then we say, I did it for her, she wasn't appreciative, and she didn't do the favor back to me, or whatever the matter may be. When we run on empty, when we expect something from someone else, we're not really doing it for the purity of giving. And when you truly give, you receive much more. The society we live in values wealth. The more wealthy you are, the more you are prone to receive respect, meaning that the more I have, the more I need to give to myself. The Torah teaches us you have to indulge in giving in order to receive the most. When you give away, it will be yours for eternity. And eternity is a very long time. It will be yours forever. However, if a person is seeking to be respected for the money, the respect is conditional and short-lived. And this type of honor we don't take with us after 120 years. When we leave this world, the only thing we're respected for is the kindness we did to other people. Nobody benefits from what we have unless we gave it away. And this is a beautiful concept that we learn from Rabbi Avigdor Miller. Rabbi Avigdor Miller teaches us, of blessed memory, he teaches us that tzedakah, money that you give away, charity, is like a seed. When the seed is planted and it is generated, you don't know where that dollar is going to end up. It's going and it's generating, and you don't know who it's helping. It's yours forever. You invested in this dollar. It's yours forever. After 120 years, when a person leaves this world, that dollar is still benefiting. Now, why is this important? Because after 120 years, when a person leaves this world, they can't do anything in order to become closer to God. They can't do anything except all the help that they generated, all the kindness that they bestowed upon others. It's growing and it's becoming more. You don't know how you change someone's life, and if that person changed because of you, you have benefited forever, and you're always becoming closer and closer and closer and closer to Hashem, our God. The money that you actually give to others is like an apple seed. A seed generates many other seeds. You don't know who that money is going to help. That's why it's so incredibly important to give charity, because that charity is going to carry on with you and it will be in your merit after 120 years, and we will keep on growing. The Maharal explains a beautiful concept. Men wear tzitzit. It's an undershirt, it's an undergarment, it's white, and it has defined features, right? It's straight on top, straight on the sides, and straight on the bottom. And it has fringes on the bottom, and it's flowing, and it's flowing, and it's flowing. The part of the tzitzit that's the well-defined is the physical part. When you do a mitzvah, when you do a chesed, it looks like you only gave her a ride. It looks like you only cooked for Shabbos. You don't see the spiritual part of the mitzvah, which is the fringes. Why? They don't have a shape. They're flowing here, they're flowing there. There's no shape. So you don't see what your mitzvah generates, which means that you may have just given her a ride home, straight to the door, waved hello, made sure she went in, said thank you for giving me the opportunity to drive you. I was driving here anyway. No, you didn't inconvenience me. You added sweetness to the mitzvah. What did you do? You don't know if you just started a wholesome friendship. You don't know if you just made her night and she had such a difficult, horrible day and she felt lost. We all have those days. And she felt crumbled and she was crushed and she was down, and you just lifted her up. You remembered me, like I matter. You don't know if you invited people for Shabbat. The guests that you invited were so inspired. You affected generations to come. Generations and generations and generations. So the mitzvah that you did doesn't have a defined shape. It's flowing. You don't know who you will affect. And when you do a mitzvah, please know that what you see is not what you get. There's so much more to it. This will inspire us to do more and more for others. It's an important thing I want to share with you. We want to do more, but sometimes we get lost. Maybe I want to have more, and that's fine. You want to have more. But don't compare yourself to other people. Just because somebody's house gets bigger doesn't mean yours got smaller. So Rebbetzin Esther Billa Schwartz moved from Cleveland to Muncie. And when she lived in Cleveland, everybody really lived in similar type of housing. When they moved to Muncie, they moved to an area where a lot of her children's friends had bigger homes. And she told them this beautiful teaching. Just because somebody's house got bigger doesn't mean yours got smaller. You can't possibly enjoy what you have in your life if you're going to compare yourself to other people. You don't even want what you have if you're constantly comparing yourself. You're disgusted with what you have. You're not happy with what you have. You wish you had more. But guess what? The more you want and the more you have, the more you're going to realize that there's always going to be someone else in the world who has more than you. There's always going to be somebody else in the world who has more than you. There was a man, a true story, a man living in Muncie. And someone called him up and said, please, can you give us your house in order for us to have a simcha? We have a beautiful event, but we can't rent a hall. Please, please, can you give us your home? It's big enough for us to run this beautiful event, to have this simcha. And this is this religious man, what he said. Now, this is not to bring down religious people, but to understand that we, and even as religious Jews, can get lost in our values. And this is what he said. He said, my house isn't finished yet. I can't lend you my house. It's not enough to impress everyone with the construction. So he held off doing this such a big mitzvah, even though he probably would have done it. But he didn't do it. What is he doing it for? Is he a bad person? No. I don't know who he is, and I don't want to know. He's not a bad person. He made a wrong choice. So we get lost in these values, but we have to remind ourselves that having more doesn't mean you're more successful. What you do with what you have, turn that into a blessing. When you see a big house, when you see someone successful in their business, when you see someone having more, being successful in life, it doesn't mean that they did all the right steps. It means that this is good for their neshama. It's good for them. It's good for their soul, whatever they have. Is everything that we see a blessing? No. Not everything that people have is a blessing. We don't know. We can pray and we can hope. And we can pray for ourselves. Everything that we have should be a blessing from Hashem to get closer to Him, because we know it is good for our neshama. Rav Yaakov Galinsky talks about how food was scarce in Poland when he was growing up. He was 7 or 8 years old, and his mother was serving dinner. And there was a bunch of kids. And food was so scarce. And you could imagine the kind of dinner that they had. Not much on the plate. But he happened to look at his sister's plate. And he saw, she has more than me. And then he made himself a promise. At 7 or 8 years old, he made himself a promise never to look at somebody else's plate, because I'm not going to enjoy what I have. Look at this revelation that he made. You could imagine him. This is my own thought. He was hungry. When you're hungry, you enjoy anything you eat because you're hungry. But because he was hungry and he knew that she has more, he wasn't enjoying himself. And he made himself this promise not to look at someone else's plate for the rest of his life, because he won't really appreciate it and enjoy it. In this world, you are only half done. What does it mean? No matter how much you've accomplished in life, there's always so much more you can do. No matter how spiritually great you are, you can be so much more. No matter how much you've accomplished in life, you can do so much more. You're only halfway done. And we learned this from the beautiful explanation of the Mishkan. The Mishkan was where Hashem dwelled Hashem lived. And we learn that the ark was actually represented ruchnius, or spirituality. This is where it had a Torah inside. The luchos were the tablets. The tablets were measured in half measurements, teaching us that no matter how much you've done, there's more to go. No matter how spiritually great you are, no matter how patient you are, no matter how happy you are, you can grow and grow and grow to be so much more. We shouldn't be spiritually complacent. We shouldn't be spiritually satisfied. We should constantly seek to do more. However, the shulchan, the table, was in full measurements, teaching us that everything physical that you have is so good for you. This is so perfect for me. This is so good for me. This is so wonderful. This is so amazing. My house, how much parnasa I make, how much money a person has, everything that you have that's physical is perfect and amazing. It's just right. It couldn't get better. This is what I need. Do I know what I need? I don't know what I need. I don't see what I need. I only want. But I need to understand that I can trust Hashem in providing me with everything I need. That's good for me. If I have more, it wouldn't be good for me. If I have less, it wouldn't be good for me. Everything that I have now is perfectly good for me. So I need to internalize that. I need to understand it. And I need to make myself a dwelling for Hashem to live in me. We don't have a Mishkan now, but we want Hashem to dwell within us, because your true essence is how much more you can be, not how much more you've done. Hashem is the one who makes everything happen. A person cannot lift a finger without Hashem saying, lift your finger. So we shouldn't be feeling too proud of how much we've done, because we want more, we want to do more. Yes, you will get the credit for everything that you've done with Hashem's help, but we should internalize that it's what Hashem wanted anyway for me. He wanted this. All I had to do was want, all I had to do was try, and He made it happen for me. So my goal is to be more. My goal is to be a vessel for Hashem, because the Torah is the true resting place for each of us to grow and become so much more. Appreciating the insights of Rebbetzin Esther Bela Schwartz in Parshat Terumah. Leah Abramov, Being and Becoming. Awakening awareness of your greatness and potential.